Without warning, and without any obvious source of ignition, a living human being bursts into flames hot enough to burn their body to ash. Yet, combustible items nearby, or even in direct contact with their bodies, are largely unaffected by the fire. These are the conditions of a ghastly phenomenon with no definitive explanation. Let's answer your burning questions about spontaneous human combustion on today's episode of Deep Fat Fry.
Deep Fat Fry.
I had to touch you for dramatic effect, Scotty. It disgusts me more than it disgusts you. Don't worry.
Hi, everyone. It's your old pal Mickey here with a direct order. I mean, an option that you are strongly encouraged to take advantage of. You will click the link below. You will subscribe to the Pessimist Productions Patreon. I mean, if you wanna, wink wink, there's more content there than, well, you could swing a dead toddler at. Exclusive shows, exclusive streams, hours of exclusive content. Why aren't you clicking? Why aren't you subscribing to the Pessimist Productions Patreon? You're making Mickey sad.
Sorry,
I was just looking at that and thinking about how glad I am I'm shooting remotely now, because that could have been my shoulder.
Yeah, I could have been grabbing on you.
Big old meat hook on it. Man, what do you got?
Bullshit episode, TJ.
What do you
Bullshit
have to
episode,
add?
man.
Like another paranoia to my list of paranoid delusions, TJ. Now I'm gonna worry about
what?
bursting into flame.
Let's just get right into it. Yeah, you are gonna.
Fuck, man, no.
Where's Paul? For no pile of ash. For no reason, Paul. For no fucking reason. You just be minding your own business. Boom. Dead.
This is bullshit, right? At the end of this, we're gonna find out that all of these cases
Bullshit,
are hoaxes,
dude.
right?
I don't know, Paul.
It's all bullshit.
Will we? Spontaneous combustion, which is does occur in various objects.
Sure.
Occurs when an object, in the case of spontaneous human combustion, a person, bursts into flames from a chemical reaction within, apparently without being ignited by an external heat source. This dapper-looking fellow is a Danish anatomist named Thomas Bartholin, who has been credited with penning the first written account of spontaneous human combustion. In 1663, he described how a woman in Paris went up in ashes and smoke while she was sleeping. The straw mattress on which she slept was unmarred by the fire. In 1673, a Frenchman named Jonas Dupont published a collection of spontaneous combustion cases in his work, De Incendiis Corporis Humani Spontaneous.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds like a very official work.
The hundreds of alleged spontaneous human combustion accounts since that time have followed a similar pattern. The victim is almost completely consumed, usually inside his or her home. Coroners at the scene have sometimes noted a sweet, smoky smell in the room where the incident occurred. There's
like barbecued pork ribs or something.
I don't know.
Like with
Sweet
like
human
pork ribs with like that honey cinnamon kind of glaze.
So there's something peculiar about many of these photos that document suspected SHC victims. In a number of the shots, the corpse's torso and heads are charred beyond recognition, but some extremities remain intact, with the hands, feet, and or part of the legs being apparently unburned. Also, the room around the person may show minimal fire damage, though a greasy residue is sometimes left behind on furniture and on walls. Descriptions of spontaneous human combustion date back to the 17th century, with a large number of cases recorded in the 19th century and a handful in the 20th and 21st centuries. Altogether, there are a few hundred recorded possible cases. So this is not a common occurrence. History is not rife with like, wow, people are just foaming up all the time. There's a few in the entire history of this phenomenon. There's a few hundred cases that are attributed to it. Like, oh, this meets the criteria for spontaneous human combustion, which is basically no fucking known accelerant or ignition point for the fire. Their limbs, especially the feet, oftentimes unaffected. The surrounding area mysteriously unaffected.
Well,
but the body reduced to
what would be the sudden
ashes.
cause? If there's not some external source, you're saying the chemical composition of your body changes into like just where you explode or you just start burning up?
All in good time, Scotty. All in good time.
This doesn't make any fucking sense.
All in good time, Scotty. So one of the let's unravel the mystery. In the 19th and 20th century, the public largely accepted the reality of spontaneous human combustion. Part of that was due to the moral component, okay? The victims were often alcoholic, usually female. So there was a general perception that it was kind of a judgment from God or some sort of retribution for a debauched lifestyle. This idea was reinforced by lurid newspaper accounts of suspected cases, and it made some level of intuitive sense because, a body saturated with a flammable substance like alcohol, the body becomes flammable. So drinking was involved in a lot of these fucking cases, which I want to get into the specific cases. Actually, there's a famous, I think it's called Bleak House. It's a Charles Dickens series of novelized short stories, where in the end of the 10th entry into this little story, the character, I think his name was Mr. Crook. You can probably get the sort of idea of what he was like. The character of Mr. Crook dies via spontaneous human combustion. A lot of readers at the time were like, what? That's fucking... And then Charles Dickens wrote this big, long defense of like spontaneous human combustion that he put out there. It's like, look, here's some documented cases of this shit. One of the cases that he actually cited there was the case of Countess Cornelia Zangari, not pictured here. I don't have a picture of her.
I was going to say, Jesus Christ, Countess.
All right. So during her, I'm going to read you this case that I'm going to get, So during her last dinner, on the night of March 15th, 1731, Countess Cornelia Zangari, Bandy, was drunk on brandy. Hey, brandy, I like it. And feeling a little bit, and she's kind of rough. She's making an ass of herself at the dinner party. Everyone's like, she's messed up. She's like, and they're like, oh, maybe you should go to bed, Countess. So the maid accompanies her to her room and spends a little time with her because she's in a bad way. They're talking, they're praying. Finally, the maid is able to get her mistress to bed. The next day, Countess does not show up at her usual time. So the maid goes to wake her up and finds only her charred remains. The whole room is full of soot. The body of the Countess has been reduced to a pile of ashes, a little more than a meter away from the bed. Some parts of her body remain unburned. Her legs below the knee, still completely unburned. 3 fingers, the front of her skull, the bed and the rest of the furniture, not affected by the fire whatsoever. Maybe some very light fire damage, but nothing that you would expect in an incident that burned an entire body to ashes. Her body succumbed to the conflagration so fast, it was later surmised her torso disintegrated as she stood and her skull simply dropped in the pile of ashes below. This was attributed at the time to lightning through the chimney. Well, some lightning got in through the chimney and zapped her into ashes.
You're making fun of that, but the idea that she just spontaneously blew up and disintegrated, that's even more ridiculous.
I want to be an 18th century crime investigator. What's your theory, detective? You see this chimney here? The lightning traveled through it, struck the countess, and she turned to ash. Except for her knee, 3 fingers, and her skull.
There's a lot of evidence. I mean, is it really all that ridiculous when you consider the evidence that I'm
So some people a long time ago say they saw something like this happen.
I mean, okay. That's fine.
That's all that you have.
What? I mean, it was a documented case at the time. Like, it's not like, I mean, this was a countess, okay?
I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I'm saying, how do we know that that's actually what happened?
Here's another lady. This is Grace Pett. This is not meant to be a depiction of Grace Pett. I just figured if I'm going to fucking have to find generic images, they might as well be of hot chicks with big boobs.
I'm fine with that. I like that.
Makes sense. I'm applying more of a Roger Corman mentality to this show as I continue on.
I see.
So listen, on the evening, 9th of April, 1744, Grace and her daughter had been celebrating the return of another daughter from Gibraltar. The women sat up talking and drinking well into the night, making the most of their reunion. At around 10 p.m., Grace retired to bed. The daughter who shared her room when Mr. Pett was at sea because he was a sailor. Anyway, they're preparing for bed. Grace returned downstairs, something which was, again, not out of the ordinary in the household. You know, she didn't really sleep well. Her daughter, exhausted by the day's celebrations and not thinking more of the matter, just fell asleep. Just like, I'm going to go to bed. Mom's going back downstairs, whatever. So what happened in the following hours, no one could say for sure. But upon waking up at 6 a.m. the next morning, Grace's daughter found herself alone in the bed with no sign of her mother. Concerned, she made her way downstairs where a most gruesome sight awaited her. Grace's body was burning with a glowing fire without flame. And although her daughter attempted to extinguish the fire with 2 bowls of water, she was too late to save her mother. Grace's ankles and feet sticking out of the fire place were the only parts of her untouched by the flames. It was reported that the trunk of the body was in a manner burnt to ashes and appeared like a heap of charcoal covered with white ashes. The head, arms, legs, and thighs were also very much burnt. So this was actually an instant where they came upon the body still burning, without flame apparently, but just kind of like a pile of leaves,
like a coal. Like a coal burns, like it's just all kind of
she's become ashened already. Like she's mainly burnt up and
the whole body was like burning. It was a slow burn, you know, a flameless burn, according to Grace's daughter.
Maybe this happens when people catch fire. I don't know.
Maybe, Scotty. Speaking of maybe, how about Maybelle? Yeah.
Damn.
Once again, I couldn't find an actual picture.
Some big old
of the
fucking
lady.
Titties on Maybelle.
But we can assume this is her.
That's her.
Why not?
So this is a more
excuse me.
This is a more brazen account of something happening. This is like the last two we've done no witnesses.
I've heard of this one. I've actually heard of this one. A dude motorboated them big fat titties so hard that the fucking friction caught her trunk on fire. Yeah.
That's a theory. So in October 1938, Maybelle Andrews was dancing in a Soho nightclub in London, England, with her boyfriend, Billy Clifford, when suddenly, in front of multiple eyewitnesses, she erupted into flames. In just minutes, she was reduced to a pile of ashes, leaving behind only her left foot and a few fingers, almost completely uncharred. Clifford was badly burned trying to put the flames out. That's her boyfriend. The heat was incredible. There were no open flames in the room. The origin of the fire remains a complete mystery.
This is just bullshit, dude. This is just urban legendary going out of control.
Oh, okay. All right.
So this is
like an urban legend here.
What the fuck is that, man?
Dude, she's burned to a fucking crisp.
We're getting into the modern era where shit's more documented. So
And there's other ones. I mean, this is crazy right here, TJ. 1951.
St. Petersburg, Florida. On the morning of July 2nd, 1951, a St. Petersburg resident named Pansy Carpenter went to deliver a telegram to a resident, 67-year-old Mary Hardy Reeser. She found the doorknob to the apartment at 1200 Cherry Street hot to the touch and called the police. The horror they found inside the apartment touched off an investigation that would be debated for decades. What's known is that Mary Hardy Reeser was nearly completely cremated. Reportedly, only her skull, a portion of her spine, and her left foot had not been reduced to ashes. The foot was found still in a slipper. The chair in which she had been seated showed signs of fire damage, as did a few items nearby, but overall, the apartment showed few signs of the fire. The St. Petersburg chief of police at the time, the now deceased J.R. Reichert, was disturbed enough by the unlikely scene of Reeser's demise to send the evidence to the FBI. It was one of the first cases of potential spontaneous human combustion to be investigated by national law enforcement. And
okay, but there's some differences here from what you just looking at it.
Yeah, there's actual fire damage around.
Fucking structural damage and fire damage around where her body was in this picture.
Yeah. But not much in the surrounding apartment. There's like the couch that she was sitting on had some fire damage. Whatever this shit was,
it looks like a knocked over or something. Yeah.
Well, it looks like she's in a bathroom.
It does.
Yeah. There's that.
There's a toilet back there. There's a sink next to her, and her leg.
I mean, isn't it just possible, TJ, that these people just catch fire in some other method,
like some kind of? What about electrical fires and shit that just like so much current passes through a person that it just fucking like they catch on fire, you know?
What if they're walking down the street, right? And they just took their weekly gasoline bath, and then a rock falls from a car tire, and it sparks the ground a little bit.
Well, she was probably
boom,
wearing clothes. Those clothes catch fire. Some part of her body catches fire. She's not able to put it out. She succumbs to it and just burns to a crisp.
This man died spontaneous human combustion. This guy was actually ruled by a coroner. The coroner in this guy's death actually ruled it spontaneous human combustion. This was a big story in 2010 when it happened.
Okay.
It's in Ireland. This is Michael Faraday. No, it's Michael Faraday.
Okay.
His charred remains were discovered in the living room in Ballybane, Galway, 3 days before Christmas last year. Baffled detectives said, "Yeah, Ballybane."
You gotta love Irish names, dude.
Baffled detectives said the only clues they could find were a scorched ceiling and floor around the badly burnt corpse, while the rest of the house sustained only smoke damage. At an inquest into the death, the coroner, Dr. Ciaran McLaughlin, said he had never encountered such a case in his 25-year career. He said he scoured medical books as well as other research, but could find no reasonable explanation for Mr. Flaherty's death other than spontaneous human combustion. He said his suspicions were bolstered after stumbling across one textbook by the forensic pathologist, Professor Bernard Knight.
Dude, there's some drunk Irish doctor. He combusted.
This fire was thoroughly investigated, and I'm left with the conclusion that it fits into the category of spontaneous human combustion for which there is no adequate explanation, he told the inquest. Spontaneous human combustion describes the burning of a living body with no apparent external source of ignition. What you thinking now, Scotty? I noticed you guys' usual skepticism's falling a little flat on this one.
Where's the fucking pictures of this dude?
I mean, they didn't want to take pictures of well, you know what?
Where's the pictures?
I don't have no pictures of this guy. I don't have no pictures of his crime
So this could just be a fucking Irish tall tale.
It was written up in like fucking major newspapers. Like you can find articles about it.
It's sensational, though.
What was the time before that Ireland had been mentioned in in the newspapers internationally?
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe that's what I'm saying. Maybe Ireland needed a little fucking let's remind them that we're up here, lads.
let's just burn that old man.
That old man Farty, he's a fucking asshole. Let's go up there and burn his body and then claim it was spontaneous human combustion.
All right, fair enough. I could see the Irish doing that.
I mean, they are. Well, I say they, like I'm not part of them. We're fucking vicious tribe,
Yeah, that's true. You do have that. That Irish mentality. All right,
we have a quick wit, but
so some of the greatest minds in America trying to take on this task. Not just America, I guess the world. Look, this guy.
Oh yeah, this mullet head right here is one of the greatest minds in America.
I mean, hey, you never know. I mean, just because you have one of the greatest minds doesn't mean you have the greatest haircut,
I mean, if you have a great mind, though, you would think you would know better than to fucking have a mullet.
Ablaze, Spontaneous Human Combustion by Larry E. Arnold.
Yeah, this doesn't appear to be a sensationalized book at all.
I mean, well, of course it's going to be. I mean, you want to sell books at the end of the day, right?
Wow, yeah, sure.
Larry E. Arnold, in his 1995 book, Ablaze, proposed a new subatomic particle, which he called pyrotron. Arnold also wrote that the flammability of the human body could be increased by certain circumstances, like increased alcohol in the blood.
Pyrotron.
He further proposed, pyrotron, dude, new particle, get with it. Proposed that extreme stress could be the trigger that starts many combustions. The process may use no external oxygen to spread throughout the body, since it may not be an oxidation reduction reaction. However, no reaction mechanism has been proposed. Researcher Joel Nickel has criticized Arnold's hypothesis as based on selective evidence and argument from ignorance.
Bro,
sounds about right.
So I left
some criticisms in there, but
I hate to bring myself into this in a self-aggrandizing way, but I'm actually doing some research too. And I have just last night isolated the mulletope.
The mulletope?
Yeah.
Really?
A previously unknown subatomic, you know what I mean? That's a
subatomic particle.
Yeah.
Right.
That causes stupid mullet heads like this guy to exist. It's like you get infected with it. If you get hit by a mulletope as a child, it erases the part of the human brain that would normally say, no fucking way I'm getting that haircut, right?
Right. How about this? Michael Harrison, Fire from Heaven, a study of spontaneous combustion in human beings.
Fire from Heaven seems like a stupid name for this. Fire from Within seems pretty fucking better,
Yeah, the fire within.
In his 1976 book, Fire from Heaven, UK writer Michael Harrison suggests that spontaneous human combustion is connected to poltergeist activity. He argues the force which activates the poltergeist originates in and is supplied by a human being. Within the concluding summary, Harrison writes, SHC, fatal or not fatal, belongs to the extensive range of poltergeist phenomena.
So wait a minute now, it's a ghost.
Wait,
poltergeist is not the same thing as a ghost. Now
it's like a spirit.
We can get into that on a separate episode.
I agree. I mean, a ghost is like a human being's spirit, and a poltergeist is an evil entity, right? Like an entity.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times, a lot of people who study poltergeist say that the poltergeist is actually caused by human beings. I guess it's sort of like. It's their own psychic energy affecting things. And
of course.
Surroundings.
This is bullshit, and the other one's bullshit. All
right. Here's another possible explanation. Lightning balls.
Now, this could be. I know ball lightning is real.
It is real. It is documented. John Abrahamson suggested that ball lightning could account for spontaneous human combustion. This is circumstantial only, but the charring of human limbs seen in a number of ball lightning cases are very suggestive that this mechanism may also have occurred when people have had limbs combusted, says Abrahamson. So he's not strongly backing this. He's not saying I think lightning balls did it. He's just there's a similarity.
I mean, we've heard about smiting. You know what? I don't believe in fucking God, but maybe Zeus is still up there or some fucking force like that.
This one right here
hurls lightning bolts at people.
This one right here is the best one yet for me, because honestly, think about it. Ball lightning forms, as from the little I understand it, under certain atmospheric conditions where there's static in the air and shit, right?
Yeah, sure.
And you got to imagine it's incredibly rare for it to form on the same spot a human being is standing on. But the law of averages tell you it's going to happen every once in a while. Somebody's going to be standing in a spot where ball lightning forms. And if that happens, it's going to burn you to fucking shit.
That's true. Maybe. Seems like a remote possibility, but
you would also think as populations get denser, we would see more of this happening because there's more.
Right. And honestly, there's been less. This used to be more common back in like the day.
Right.
There was like a lot more reports of this in like the 18th, 19th centuries than there are 20th, 21st.
Right.
Crazy how that works.
All right. So let's talk about what's probably actually going on. So first of all, some confessions. I might have left out some details.
You're a lying sack of shit. I knew it.
What?
I knew.
Not you, TJ.
First,
how could you have lied to us?
So first thing you probably need to know is that it's important to note that almost all postulated cases of spontaneous human combustion involve persons with low mobility due to advanced age or obesity, along with general poor health.
So you're talking about like people that like couldn't get out of a fire if they needed to.
People who, if they got lit on fire, might not be necessarily the fucking quickest to react in a proactive
manner to put it out. Right.
So in the case of the Countess Cornelia Zangari, an empty oil lamp was found near her body. In the case of Grace Pett, she had most likely gone stairs to smoke from her pipe and was also near a fireplace. In the case of Maybelle Andrews, skeptics discovered no records of any such person. That's the one who just foamed in the middle of the fucking party.
So that's just bullshit.
You're right. That's a total urban legend.
Okay.
In the case of Mary Reeser, the old lady who foamed and then only her leg was left and part of her spine. She was an addicted smoker who had just taken a bunch of sleeping pills.
Yeah, great combination.
Michael Faraday, the Irishman, was found near his fireplace, which had been burning at the time. For some unknown reason, investigators ruled out the fireplace as the source of the fire that killed him. Many believe they were mistaken to do so.
What do you think could be the fireplace here?
What could it be? What was he near?
No.
Surely it was spontaneous human combustion.
He's literally found dead, burned to death near his fireplace, which is so much going, and they're just like, nah, that wasn't it. Easy.
Couldn't have been the fireplace.
Explain to me that one. You're their Irish expert. What was going through their minds? Paul. Like, were they? What happened?
That's ridiculous, isn't it? It's like fire goes in the fireplace, not outside. He wasn't found in the fireplace, was he? Just near it.
He wasn't.
The whole point of a fireplace is that the heat is flumed up the chimney away from bodies in the room, right? So you can have a fire inside. Not a fireplace.
Yeah,
and that old lady that took sleeping pills and smoked too. It wouldn't add either.
So what's probably actually going on? So almost all of the known cases, as I said, involved advanced age, obesity, drunkenness, cigarettes, fireplaces. And all the victims are pretty universally alone when they combust. Like, there's never anyone around to see the combustion happen.
Except your one story of, they're in a nightclub,
which is totally a fake story.
Yeah, fake story.
Just not even real. All the other ones based on actual documented shit, but there's never anyone around. Where is everybody? It's always they come by the next day and they're like, whoa, what the fuck happened here? So the most likely explanation for the cases that form the basis of SHC is that drunk, fat, old people end up accidentally lighting themselves on fire, and then they're too fucked up or fat and old, or all three, to do anything about it, so they just kind of burn. How do they burn so hot and so thoroughly to the point of near cremation? Well, the answer is pretty interesting, to be honest with you.
Right? Like, because fat burns like a candle.
That's right.
Yep.
It is actually called the Wick Effect. It's a theory that says that a person is kept aflame through his or her own fats after being ignited, accidentally or otherwise. A clothed human being acts like an inside-out candle. The fuel source, which is human fat, subcutaneous fat, inside the body, and the wick would be the clothing of the victim on the outside. Hence, there is a continuous supply of fuel in the form of melting fat seeping into the victim's clothing. Fat contains a large amount of energy due to the presence of a long hydrocarbon chain. So here's an actual display of how this works.
Sure.
There's other theories.
A theory?
It's the most likely, and it's actually
they have like body farms where, because like I know they've got body farms.
They've actually tested it on a pig, and the results I think show pretty clearly that this is what's happening.
Right.
Well, they used to burn people alive on like they crucify people and burn them. That was a thing like in the Roman Empire. So that's how I knew it was like you could burn something next to like even a crucified person.
While unconscious, the victim's clothing is accidentally ignited by an external heat source.
Sure, makes sense.
Over the course of several hours, the heat from the flames melts the body fat and soaks into the clothing. This acts like the wax in a candle to keep clothing burning steadily for a long time.
Makes sense.
So it's a slow process.
The fuel provided by fat subjects the body to intense heat for a long period of time. Eventually, most of the body that is covered by large amounts of fat and burning clothing is destroyed and reduced to ash. So this is why when I forget which one it was a Grace Pet. This is pretty much like what her daughter described seeing when she came down. It's like she's slow burning without flames.
Right.
Because her body has basically been turned into a wick by this process.
Well, have you ever seen a log that's caught fire? I mean, I know it's different because it's, we're talking about like a piece of wood, but like it doesn't have something to flame and it's still like, it's like cracking and stuff. Like the same sort of thing you have going on here where it's like, you don't necessarily see a flame jumping out, but it's still the object still, or the person in question still on fire. They used to send like in pigs into tunnels where they do like sieges for castles and shit. Because when you burn pigs up, there's so much fat, so they almost like explode. If you have enough heat and energy, it's the same thing with a person. Like your body is made up of all these fats and shit. So it doesn't surprise me at all. It's like people don't think of themselves as animals with fat.
If you think about the parts of the body that are typically left behind, it's usually head or skull.
Yeah, no fat there.
Nothing. Fingers.
Yeah, very little fat.
Your feet and your fucking like calves where there's not as much fat. And the parts
that are
gone, always the torso is always the part that's fucking gone. And the fucking thighs.
Well, if you have a bunch of subcutaneous fat around your midsection, like you're perfect to fucking. So all of us perfect to burn, dude.
Oh yeah, no.
We'll make good candles.
Yeah, good old candle. Anyway,
I don't want to burn.
I really wanted to find out through my research that spontaneous human combustion was a true thing. And that, people were really just filming out of nowhere for no goddamn reason.
Yeah.
Because that's just interesting to me. But the truth is, it's probably this, or there's a few other theories that fucking have credibility, but none of them are. People just sometimes kind of go poof. So, yeah, that's spontaneous human combustion. Hope you enjoyed.
Deep fat fried. Deep fat fried. Deep fat fried. Deep fat fried.